Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Satsuma Salanut, and in this video I will be giving an in-depth analysis on the songs written and released by one William Gold, also known as Wilbur Soot. Wilbur Soot is a popular YouTuber and Minecraft streamer, and he has collaborated with several other popular YouTubers such as Dream and George Not Found. He is also known for his several music releases, some of them being serious releases such as his debut album, Your City Gave Me Asthma, which was released this past summer, and there is also his other music. His other music being his comedy songs, the ones that are a satirical spin on the nice guy and incel tropes we often see today, whether they be in memes or other forms of media. I find his comedy songs to be quite enjoyable and highly entertaining. But one thing I've always wondered when listening is what messages Wilbur trying to convey with these songs, and are they connected in any way? I know I had to answer this question, someday, somehow. So I immediately stopped watching videos of Wilbur saying how much he wants to fuck the brown M&M, and I got to work. And after many days of researching and many sleepless nights trying to make sense of this strange man who got famous for singing about putting tracking devices on a woman's car and saying how much he loves an egg and is gay for it, I have mindlessly strung together a possible timeline for what is taking place in these songs. I hope you enjoy. And by the way, the song will be in 2 parts because it's really long. So we first begin with the least e-girl-like song in the whole saga. In fact, this song has absolutely nothing to do with e-girls. This song more or less sets the stage for what will be a long and anxiety-inducing story about a deranged man's lust for a woman and the anguish he faces along the way. This song begins with Wilbur narrating how much of an overachiever he is and how confident he is in himself. He assures us, the listener, that he isn't a product of his insecurities, and he is, a matter of fact, he is very happy in himself and feels he is a role model to others. This changes, however, in the second verse of the song, with Wilbur now being 16 and in secondary school. He claims to be mastering history, aquatic biology and geography. He continues in his overachieving and is now acting almost as if he's better than everyone else, much to their annoyance. He then once again reminds us that he isn't a product of his insecurities, but he feels left out that he wasn't invited to the end-of-year high school party. We can see Wilbur's arrogance begin to show here as he wonders why he's been left out, considering he views himself so highly. In the bridge, we can see how much Wilbur's classmates dislike him, and how he sees this as them being envious of him, considering how he thinks of himself as a genius and there is no one who can compare with his immense intelligence. In the third verse, we see Wilbur, who is now 20, and has now become sad and depressed due to the fact that before he didn't even have to try to be good at things to exceed, but now he can't complete even the simple tasks. He then accepts that he is beginning to succumb to his insecurities and that maybe grade school was the place where he peaked, now realising that the intelligence isn't everything. In the fourth and final verse, he accepts that he isn't a genius and that he isn't even that smart. But when we finally think Wilbur has changed and maybe he's learned his lesson, he hits us with a final turnaround saying that one thing is true, I'm smarter than you, before breaking into one final chorus. He then claims to have learned his lesson, but we know the truth, Wilbur, because we know what happens next in your story. Okay, so this is an officially released song. Wilbur made this up on the spot while singing on a stream. This video is only available through a re-upload I found, but I believe it is a precursor to the e-girl saga. I say this because it is a key part of the timeline which will come later on. The song itself doesn't have much to do with the timeline except for its main storyline, and that is Wilbur's relationship with a girl he meets on Discord at the age of 14. Now, for timeline's sake, we must assume Wilbur in the songs is younger than Wilbur in real life, as Discord didn't exist when Wilbur was 14, but oh well. Anyway, so in this song, Wilbur is telling his Discord girlfriend about how he's leaving Discord and moving over to TeamSpeak, because it's better, supposedly. This song is Wilbur's goodbye to his girlfriend, and it serves as an important moment later on in the story. The Nice Guy Ballad, what a classic, and also the beginning of Wilbur's descent into madness. At the beginning of this video, 2 voice messages are played, the first being a threat to a girl called Sarah who has just rejected his attempts to start a relationship with her. In the second voice message, he apologises and reminds her of how much of a nice guy he is and how he deserves to be with her because of how kind he is. because you all know the rules. If you're nice to a woman, she will immediately want to have sex with you. That was a joke. Please don't take that out of context. But anyway, the first verse begins with Wilbur asking Sarah not to block his number again, and saying how he wants to prove to her that he isn't obsessed with sex. As we know, guys, they're all obsessed with sex. He then rambles on about how he plans to go to her Facebook page, but this time he plans to just appreciate it instead of other things. Not safe for YouTube. He then shows another moment of arrogance, claiming that he is the only man deserving of her love, and how he is nice, and because he is nice to her, she should show him her tits. His words, not mine. He then explains how she has filed a restraining order against Wilbur because he supposedly put a tracking device so that he could make sure he wasn't seeing any black guys. Wait, what? So you're racist as well as committing several acts of harassment? Jesus, Wilbur, you've really created a character here, haven't you? So then he tries a method of emotional manipulation known as guilt tripping, saying how a girl as pure as him would never go for a man like him. Sorry, a girl as pure as her. He then says that's just how reality works, implying that he gets rejected often, maybe in an attempt to make her feel sorry for him and date him out of pity. He then asks her again why she won't show him her tits, before clarifying that if she were to do it, it would only be consensual, as he is a gentleman. He then assures her that he's really mentally stable. He then commits his worst acts of emotional manipulation, saying that if she doesn't go out with him, he will kill himself. Which, just a word of advice, please don't do this in real life. It's not good. It just makes people uncomfortable and really worried. They don't want to get hurt. They don't want you to get hurt, so please get help. Anyway, he then states that she should date him because he took the time to write her a song, and that he wouldn't have done that if she wasn't attractive, which he then backtracks, saying that she isn't just a woman to him and claims to be a really sensitive guy, and that he sees below the skin. And then he asks her one final time why she won't show him her tits before the outro starts. He then breaks into a sad lament about how useless he is without her, and how the world turns a lot slower when she's not around. He then says that he'll settle for a picture of her feet, assuming that will be more likely for him to receive, and also revealing that his character has a foot fetish. Lovely. We must then assume that Wilbur moved on from Sarah eventually and found a new e-girl to stalk, and thus begins the e-girl trilogy, starting with Yes, believe it or not, I believe The Internet Ruined Me takes place before I'm in love with an e-girl. You may ask yourself why, but I'll tell you. First of all, it's clear in this song that Wilbur feels he can't talk to women, something that he's clearly has no trouble doing in I'm in love with an e-girl, showing that he eventually overcame his emptiness and depression after losing Sarah, which is what I think this song is about. I think it's about Wilbur trying to move on and find a new partner. We can see that he's clearly upset, and that he claims he doesn't know what's wrong with him, and he's scared, pissed off and lonely. Oh, and he's horny. We all heard that, Wilbur. And it's also evident that he spends a lot of time online, and that he is aware of the fact that he isn't in a very good position, saying that this is the state that I'm in, showing that he realises that the choices he's made has negatively affected him, and now he has to pay for it. In the second verse, we see Wilbur continue to be depressed, saying how his brain is on dark mode, and that he's also found a potential love interest, but saying how he wants to guess her passcode. Okay, maybe he hasn't learned anything after all. We also see that the girl he's speaking to exploits her looks for views, saying that she has a profile picture of her gorgeous face to try and get more sponsors. We then get the impression that maybe this girl is an influencer, perhaps a Twitch streamer who Wilbur has become infatuated with, and this infatuation has grown obsessive. This song is actually a bit of a shift in his character, as Wilbur in this song is presented to not think very highly of himself, unlike in the other songs where he's presented as very arrogant and even narcissistic at times. Anyway, when we enter the chorus, where we are presented to the idea that Wilbur has been watching her streams for a while, since it says that he spent the past 10 years of his life making her prepared. This may just be an exaggeration, but I can see how it would work. He then says how he views her to almost be the perfect girl, asking her to give him a reason not to be on his knees before saying, "The internet has ruined me," implying that he isn't proud of the man he's become and blames the internet for his actions of simpery and how he has let himself be consumed by the media. In the third verse, he mentions his previous mishaps with Sarah, saying how him being insane is part of the package, and if she can't handle him at his worst, then she doesn't deserve his mental baggage. still trying to convince himself that he could possibly be in a relationship with her someday. He then uses height as a metaphor for his insecurities in being a partner in a relationship, saying how he knows she wants someone perfect, but how if he was just a little bit better, he'd almost be good enough to reach the high shelf, in this sense, the high shelf being her standards for a partner. He then says how he thinks he may be a threat to himself. This is further presented in the second chorus where he asks, why does she run when I'm monthly giving her 50% of my income, revealing that he's now suffering financially at the expense of his infatuation. He then admits that he feels his ideas of affection are based around artificial perfection, basically admitting to himself that it's all an illusion and none of it was real. He then accepts that he will never end up with the Twitch streamer, but still wants to appease. He then repeats one last time, "The internet has ruined me," before the outro begins, where the line "we used to sleep on call together" is repeated several times. In this timeline, I believe this is him with his girlfriend in Discord song, and it is him reminiscing on the past, and that's why I mentioned it earlier in this video. I see it as a cool little detail that not many people may have got, and I know it probably isn't the case, but for the sake of this timeline, just go with it. Anyway, that about wraps up part 1. In part 2, we will go through the rest of the Ego trilogy and hopefully come up with a conclusion and maybe an explanation for this crazy saga of songs. Stay tuned.
We used to sleep on cold together.